Okay, and we're live.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Advocacy Work youth-led Google Hangout. This is an international hangout. We have guests, we have people from all over. We have Alison over here from Washington DC, Senel from Sri Lanka, and unfortunately today, uh, Aisulu Sanat, she won't be able to join us. She's the AWAS Global Youth Ambassador in Pakistan, and because of the time zone conflict error, she wasn't able to make it on this call. So we hope that she'll be able to share her story with us on the blog in the near future. So yeah, I will go ahead and just start out by um, telling everyone to maybe introduce themselves. I'll start off my introduction. My name is Nguyen. I'm from Houston, Texas. I'm a graduate student studying nutrition here, and I'm a Real Change Fellow with Results. And also, I was a global campaign GCE-US at the Youth Advocate training from fall 2014. So, could you all please introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Alison Kahn, and I am a high school student from Maryland, just outside Washington, D.C., and I'm the president of my school's chapter of Schoolgirls Unite, which is an organization that does a lot of advocacy for global education and also runs a scholarship for girls in Mali.
All right, my name is Senel. I live in Sri Lanka in Colombo. I am an ambassador with the World at School program, but I'm also working with the government of Sri Lanka as the Sri Lankan youth delegate to the UN.
Awesome. Thank you all for the introduction. I'm going to first start off by saying that the title of this Google Hangout is Advocacy Works. I was going to ask y'all if y'all think, does it work? And if you could please elaborate on why or why not.
Well, I can start. I think that to answer that question, you kind of need a general idea of what exactly advocacy is, and I think that inherently in what advocacy is as a way of supporting a specific cause or policy within a system, that its inherent purpose is to be effective and to achieve change. And I think advocacy really does work because when people demonstrate that they care about a problem and finding a solution for it, and they take really tangible steps to make that happen, change definitely comes.
Yeah, maybe I'd go next. I guess Alison's done a lot of the work for me by defining what advocacy means and things like that. And I really agree with her when she says that advocacy really works. Sometimes advocacy is slow, so sometimes it really takes time for change to happen, but that doesn't mean change doesn't happen. So sometimes, as people engaging in advocacy, we need to be patient, and we need to keep pushing for what we believe in. So even if it gets late, it still does happen. So I really think advocacy does work.
And the other thing about advocacy is that it's so easy to be an advocate in so many different ways that it's accessible to people in all kinds of situations and walks of life. And in that way, it's just in how accessible it is, it can be really effective.
Yeah, I agree with y'all on that. Well, advocacy, I'm fairly new to advocacy. I've been only doing it maybe about a year and a half now, and I really think that if you want to make a difference, it's a way to go because you can really reach far out just beyond like the community. You can go all around the world, like meet advocates like y'all, and then like I said, there are different avenues you can take whether it's writing letters to editors, op-eds, meeting with editorial boards, or meeting with members of Congress as we do here in the States and talk about the issues that you care about. And we can do community outreach and education, to talk about the issues, to just educate the community. And it is effective. And that's what I have to say.
Yeah, and maybe one thing I could add is that
Yeah,
sometimes when you advocate for things, the changes aren't really that big. Sometimes the changes are really small, so you might not really notice something big happening, especially when you are trying to advocate changes in like policy and things like that. Sometimes when you advocate so much, you might just get like a word or two change, but of course it's only a word or two, but that still might affect a lot of people in a lot of ways. So change does happen sometimes. Of course, it's a little slow.
yeah, I agree. Okay. Um, so, like, y'all, what is y'all's motivation to advocate, for education? What got you guys to become an advocate, and how do you guys motivate others to become advocates?
Well, personally, I advocate for a few different reasons. I advocate for education because I think that the benefits of education can be seen not only in the person educated, but in their families, in their communities, in their countries. I think it's really important to stress the far-reaching effects and benefits of education in combating poverty, supporting economic growth, supporting healthcare, political stability. I mean, time and time again, we've seen that countries coming out of political turmoil that support education, including for women, definitely come back from political turmoil much better than countries that don't. And really, really personally, I love working with the organization that I work with and advocating for education because it gives me incredibly valuable leadership experience, and it helps me develop a really global perspective that a lot of high school students rarely get to experience. So I'm really glad and grateful that I've had this opportunity. And in terms of motivation, I think that people people like feeling like they're making a difference and that they're doing something to make the world a better place. So definitely, it's validating and satisfying for everyone to be in a group where you can, even if the changes are small, even if they take a long time, you can feel like you're making a difference and see the changes that you're making. So that's definitely, stressing one, the importance of education, and also possible ways for you to get things out of advocating can be motivating for yourself and for others around you.
Yeah, it's interesting because Alison just spoke about countries that are just coming out of political turmoil. And maybe I live in one of those countries. I live in a country that's just coming out of political turmoil. In Sri Lanka, we had a war for for about 3 decades, and it has just ended militarily about a few years back. And a lot of people really have a lot of interpretations about why the war began and things like that. But my own little interpretation is that all goes back to education. Education is really the way you can change a community and change the way people think about different issues. So that's one of the reasons I'm really passionate about education, because I think by changing children, by giving them a good education, you can really change their mindsets. Of course, you can teach them science and maths and things like that, but you could also teach them values such as mutual respect and things like that. So that's really one of the reasons that I'm really passionate about education. Education also like empowers you to change yourself and really change yourself, of course, but also your community. So I really think that education is really a powerful tool in that way.
Okay, great. Yeah, for me, when I was growing up, my parents always emphasized the importance of education. And back then, I didn't really realize what a significant impact education really could have on an individual. And the effects it could have on the world. So education is very important, as the reasons you all mentioned, for economic stability, for safety of our countries and other countries as well. And through my volunteer work out here in my own city, I saw the inequality between the schools, and I learned about it through as an advocate for results, how there is not universal access to quality education, and how um, large number of children, 57 million children in communist school age, non-school, and many of these 250 million children cannot learn basic reading, writing, or counting. So that's why it was very important for me. I knew how to motivate others. I just I just tell them how much it means to me, and why I care about it. And if you're authentic and genuine, people will see that, and they will listen to you and what you have to say, and hopefully they will join their efforts in advocating education for all.
Absolutely. And I think, the one other thing about that I forgot to mention is that, advocating for education and being part of a community that really values education, at least for me, has helped me value my education and realize, the opportunities that I've had in a privileged environment where I have really wonderful education, and it really makes me see the value of that and how far that has brought me.
Thank you, Alison. Thanks, Senel. Next, I'm gonna just ask, like, you guys done a lot of work. You as the president of your school organizations, Girls Unite, and Senel is doing great work as well. Just wanted to see if y'all can give an example of successful or even non-successful campaign event or outreach event, and maybe share a little bit of what you learned from that event.
Well, I can answer that. I think one campaign that we did last year, where I am, is we went to Congress and asked our representatives and senators to sign a letter going to President Obama asking him to pledge $125 million to the Global Campaign for Education. And so we went in and talked to our senators and our congressmen. I was on the side going to the congressmen, to the House of Representatives, and it was really amazing because it really depends on who you get and the personal connections you make, whether you can whether you can ask your representative to do what you want them to do. But at least in our case, when we went to Representative Van Hollen, who was one of our representatives, he had been called out to the House floor for a vote, and one of his staff members walked us through the tunnels under the Capitol and down to the antechamber outside the House floor, and we met with him right there, surrounded by other people who lobbied for a living. And we told him about our cause and about the Global Campaign for Education and about why this was all so important. And he was so personal and encouraging, and he made it really, really clear that he supported our cause and that he would absolutely sign this letter. And it was just very satisfying and very validating, and we could tell that this was the kind of thing that even as young people we were able to do, something that people do for a living, that people work really, really hard to. People work very hard to get their representatives to do what they want them to do, and we had put together such a compelling argument and made such a great connection with him that he was incredibly supportive. So that was great.
Yeah, if yeah, that's a great example that Alison spoke about. It's pretty inspiring as well to hear about the work that she does. Maybe if I could share something as well. Last year in May in Colombo, we hosted a conference in Sri Lanka called the World Conference on Youth. The conference was about the post 2015 development agenda. So the Millennium Development Goals are now coming to an end, and the world leaders are currently discussing what's coming after that. And we felt that young people around the world really had a role to play in this new development agenda, and their voices need to be heard in those discussions. So this was a big conference that was attended by young people from around the world, and which was in Colombo, and there was an outcome document of the conference called the Colombo Declaration on Youth, and some of those recommendations that came from young people from Colombo at that declaration are currently actually being implemented. For example, one of the recommendations was for the UN to have a UN Youth Skills Day, and that recommendation was actually implemented as well. So now the UN actually has a Youth Skills Day, which really recognizes the skills of young people and so on and so forth. So that's just an example for something that really I felt was something that's worth sharing.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Great story, y'all. For me, I just have a story from when I went as a global campaign for education, the U.S. chapter, and went to youth advocacy training. That day I lobbied with members of Congress from 6 of them from the Houston area. And one of them was Congressman Ted Cole. I met with his staffer, his foreign aid staffer, Rick Murray, and we spoke to him about the issues, and they, like Alison said, they really like to hear from their constituents rather than like a paid lobbyist, because you're the ones who vote them into office, and it's they actually listen to what you have to say. And so we spoke with him about the Education for All Act at that time from the last congressional session. And although he didn't seem like he was going to support it, because you have to know you're not always going to have successful campaigns or events. But as long as you're making progress and you keep going at it, we did get his staffer, Luke Murray, in touch with Ryan Callahan as they were working on the bill for the next congressional session. So we did get him in touch with Ryan, and they shared ideas and to see what improvements they could make, so that way Congressman Pacheco could support the bill in the next congressional session. So I'm gonna move on right now. Y'all have so why is it important, you guys think it's important to have youth voices present when determining education policy? Why can't we just have other individuals like the older generation advocate? Why do you think youth voices matter?
Well, I think there are a lot of reasons for that. One reason is that education policy is for the next generation, whether it's here or abroad. Education is going to affect the youth of the world, and it's really important, I think, for everyone to recognize how important that is. And also, young people have historically been huge change makers. A lot of the changes that we see around the world for in the 60s and in many different times throughout the decades, college students and youth are the people really pushing for change. And it really shows how important an issue is when even young people, everybody can recognize how incredibly important an issue is, and everyone can understand the benefits and the importance of the issue. But also having somebody young who's not a paid lobbyist or the classic white male congressman, it can definitely garner attention that the issue might not otherwise have. When you think about like Malala, she got a huge amount of attention because she was advocating for education. First of all, as a girl and as a minor, and when she was shot, she wasn't just another Pakistani casualty. She was someone who was young, who was female, and she made waves because she showed that youth really care about education.
Yeah, I completely agree with Alison. Maybe if I could just add a few things. I think often when we speak about education, often what happens most of the time is there's a big like top to bottom kind of approach. So there are like older people who are like experts, either professors or professionals, are telling that this is what's best for young people. So they make these decisions for us. But the truth is, we know what's best for us as young people, and honestly, like sometimes we are better experts at it because we go to school every day. So if there's a problem, for example, if there's a problem with our textbooks, if they're outdated or something, then we know that better than, for example, some expert. Um, and then if there is for example, a problem in our system of education, if what we learn maybe is not helping us to get a job or something like that, then we would know that sometimes better than some expert sitting behind a desk. Also, another thing that might help also is that our education also affects our future. So if the education that I receive is not good enough, it might really affect my future, the stability of my life in the future, my dignity as well, maybe. So I actually have a right to determine the kind of education that I want to, because it really affects my life in future as well. So maybe like a rights-based approach to looking at that also might be interesting. That's in addition to what Alison said. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, those are really, really awesome points. And it's great to remember that even as young people, we can, if at least in my experience, like talking to Representative Chris Van Hollen, if you make your argument strong enough and you really show professionalism, you can definitely make great points and make change, even if you're not a well-established expert. Because as you said, we are experts in what we know and in our educations, and so we can have a huge impact. And people love to see young people who are really passionate about something, and they know that we're not doing it for the money or for something else, but they know that we do it because we care about it.
Excellent point. I don't think I have anything to add to that. You guys are all right. Like, yeah, we don't have to be. They don't expect us to be experts. They have experts already that give them all that data, but what we have to give them is like our experiences and other experiences that we shared from the people we know. So, yeah, great job,
Thanks.
I just wanted to cut in. Sorry, this is Aisulu at GCE-US, and it's been such a great discussion so far, but I wanted to kind of bring in a question that has come up, and I wonder, can we only advocate to government leaders? Are there other places that we can use our voices for advocacy?
Yeah, no, Alison. All right, maybe if I'll go first. Absolutely not. I think that's something where a lot of young people are a little confused as well. They feel like sometimes government is the only agency that, or the government is the only group that we could do advocacy for. But the truth is, you could also advocate for a whole different other partners as well. Like, for example, the private sector, media, even educational institutions, school administrators, and so on and so forth. We could do advocacy for a whole range of actors like that. For example, if you want to advocate with to do advocacy with the media. Often news stories about education and issues like that, development issues often don't come in the front pages. They're not considered as important. So you could do advocacy with the media and try and get issues like education more attention. If you want to do smaller changes, you could always do advocacy with your school, within your school or university itself, and then try and get smaller changes. For example, if you want a better studying environment in your school, you could just do advocacy within your university and try and get those changes within that level as well. So it's not only the government that you can do advocacy for, you can of course do advocacy to different partners as well. And sometimes that kind of advocacy might even be a little more effective than advocating for governments, because it's harder to reach governments, but it's sometimes easier to reach other partners sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, those are great points. I would definitely say that advocacy includes grassroots outreach and local outreach. It's definitely not just for governments. I think there's definitely something to be said for reaching out to those around you, to the private sector, to people who aren't involved in education. And there's a lot that those people can do. They can join the cause, they can donate, they can sign petitions. And so advocacy is effective when you talk to the government, but also when you talk to all those other groups that Senel mentioned, and really everyone, because there are so many ways to get involved that at least in my experience, almost anybody who you speak to about these issues has some way to advocate for education and to join the cause.
Great. Yeah, I would say there are different ways as well. Alison mentioned some, and Senel mentioned a lot of them. Media is a great way to advocate, because a lot of people do read the newspaper. The editorial page is the second most seen page behind the front page of the newspaper, and that can reach thousands to millions of individuals. Is a great way to get an issue that you care about through a letter to the editor, an op-ed, whereas you can do an editorial board and have them publish an editorial in the newspaper, and that's a great way to educate the community and also just build awareness about education issues happening around the world. And then you can always do like photo petitions as well, or just sign petitions and have just outreach education events throughout the community, because many of the individuals may not know about education issues happening around the world, or they don't know how to get involved. So what we can do is we can educate them and show them what to do, how to write letter to the editor, how to notice newsletters, Congress, how to just how to do something, just give them steps. And I'm gonna check to see if we have any questions right now. Maybe like 10 minutes. So you guys talked about your experiences, your events, and why it is important to have youth voices. So what are y'all's advice to other youth who are interested in this issue, in education policy?
I think it's there are many ways to get involved, and it definitely depends on where you are, what where you are in terms of your career, in terms of if you're still in school. But things like if you're in the U.S., things like calling your congressperson, or if you're in a high school or a university, starting a club, starting a chapter of an organization like Schoolgirls Unite that I work for. There are many opportunities, especially in schools, to get involved in service organizations and in advocacy organizations. Other things like if you have the funds, donating to a credible and effective charity. There are many charities and organizations that work extensively in the places that really need help in education. And I think it's also really important to educate yourself on global issues and what the most effective ways of helping are, and how you yourself can get involved in working for something that you're really passionate about.
Yeah, if I was to give an advice to other kids my age, I'd probably say that a lot of young people our age are a little apathetic. They're cynical about things like development. They sometimes just don't care about issues like education. They say that they're simply not interested. They say it's none of their business. But the truth is, it is your business. You need to care about these issues. Of course, a single person or a group of people might not be able to make huge changes, but we can do our little bit, and sometimes that's all that matters. I once heard this quote by Professor Howard Williamson, and and it says that the right to criticize is earned with the willingness to engage. So sometimes we find a lot of young people our age criticizing the government, criticizing the private sector, criticizing the media, but they don't really engage themselves. So of course, criticism is important. We need to criticize where we feel fault, but we also, whenever possible, we need to try and engage ourselves and try and do something to change problems in our communities as well. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Also, just wanted to interject here again. This is Ashley from GCE-US. Don't forget to use the hashtag advocacy works, and I'll pull it from Twitter into this forum. But I did also want to ask our panelists, kind of, was there a person who inspired you? So we've talked a lot about why you advocate and how you would inspire people to advocate. But I just want to know if there's a person who inspired you to do this work.
So for me, I'm inspired by the people around me, and one person who's really inspired me, I don't know if she's watching, but if you are, hi Wendy. I have a mentor through Schoolgirls Unite named Wendy Lesko, who's an incredible activist, and she's really a lot of the work I do is very student-run, student started, but she really she inspires me to really be passionate and to really be organized and be on top of everything, and to keep going in this incredibly important cause. And from the moment that I joined Schoolgirls Unite and started being active in this sort of thing and started doing education advocacy, she was incredibly inspiring and incredibly encouraging, and nothing but kind and motivating. And I think it's really important to have somebody like that to keep you going and to keep and who is active and who can show you that it is possible to really do things to make a difference in your community and outside of it. So she's been great, and I look forward to working with her for a long time after this. But That's my personal experience.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Alison. Yeah, I'm also inspired by a lot of great people like for example Mandela or Gandhi. But for me also, teachers inspire me a lot, especially when it comes to education. I also have had a few teachers in my school and university who've had a great impact on me, and who really taught me the value of education and the need to advocate for education. And I think the best teachers are the ones that could really have a big impact on you, and actually not only teach you a subject like math or science, but also really shape you as a human being. And I think teachers really have that kind of power, like the kind of power that maybe a parent or a very close relative or a friend have. I think next to them, a teacher also has that kind of power. So I'm always inspired by teachers.
Yeah. For me, other individuals, other youths like y'all who are doing amazing work. That's what inspired me. Going to the Results International Conference last year at the GCE-US Youth Advocacy Training, I met individuals that are doing way beyond what I can ever imagine. But it just inspired me like to keep going and keep working and also just try to do what I can. And so yeah, and of course my parents as well. They really helped taught me the importance of education and also to give back to the community as well. So they inspired me.
Absolutely, and I think other than mentors and teachers, who of course are incredibly important, relating to like the youth advocacy training, it's really wonderful to also be around inspiring peers. So working with other kids, other high school students, for me has also been inspiring, because I see how passionate other people are, and it keeps me riled up about the issue and inspires me to work really hard for it.
Those are some great responses. We have a question from Twitter from Dodson Advocate, who would like to know if you guys could share kind of one of your favorite, maybe light bulb advocacy moments where you were like, "Oh my gosh, this is so great!" But I totally didn't know if I could do this, but I did, and it was awesome. So could any of you guys share any of those moments if you've had them?
Yeah, maybe if I have to answer that question, I probably have to repeat something I said before about the conference we had, because last year the conference had a great outcome. It had a great turnout from young people from around the world, and we had a great outcome document, which is very powerful. So I would probably be repeating what I said before.
Um, I don't know if I have one particular light bulb moment. I think I've had a lot of smaller light bulb moments where I've spoken to somebody and uh, I realize, I'm reminded how important this is, or I have a little moment where I realize, hey, I actually, people are listening to me. I can make a difference. Um, talking to elected officials, talking to community members who are active in the field, who support the cause and reiterate a lot of what I work for, really is inspiring to me. And I think I don't know if I've had a particular single light bulb moment, but but yeah, trips to DC. a couple of events that we've done talking to distinguished panel members, community members, bringing in international artwork and food. There have been a lot of experiences where I just feel incredibly proud to be an education advocate.
A light bulb moment for me probably would be when I got a letter to the editor published. I had never written a letter to the editor. It was last September. I wrote a letter to the editor and I sent it in, and it was just that easy. And it got published just a few days later. And this one was on child vaccination, saving lives. And also during the town hall meetings, I didn't think I could go up and talk to these congressmen, but I did, and you just listened to my issues and you actually cared about what I had to say. And although we did not sign on to the letter we asked him to sign on in the end, he was informed about the issue, and he was the only way he had considered signing on to the letter to support issues. So I just to do something, whatever it is, whatever way you advocate, whether it's through art, writing, or speaking, I would say just go for it.
Those are great to hear that and everything. And I would just really like, as we kind of wrap up before we kind of, again, I know we talked a little bit about what would your advice be, but I think if you could sum up, give you maybe 2 seconds to think about a word that you would think has really helped you in your advocacy. Like, I know a lot of people talk about persistence or patience or something like that, but maybe one word that you could share to others about what helps you get through the advocacy and helps you get through kind of like the tough times, or is a reminder about why it's so important. Maybe 1 or 2 words to think about something like that.
For me, I think passion is probably the word that I say to myself, that I hear and see, that kind of keeps me motivated. I remember once talking at a local library, and somebody said something about the power of numbers, and there's absolutely power in numbers, but there's also power in passion, and I think passion is incredibly important in keeping you going, keeping you motivated, and a lot of people who are really passionate about things push and push and push to get things through, to make changes, and passion, I think, is something that is hard to create sometimes, but is really invaluable in any advocate's in what any advocate does.
I guess, well, it's not one word, but I think doing the best you can is what's important. Sometimes we might not be able to change huge things, but if you just do what you can and then change what's possible, I think that's what's really important.
And I would say just be authentic, just be yourself. You don't have to try to be someone else. You don't have to do what another person is doing. Just do what works for you, and in that way, like through advocating, you can just you don't have to try to replicate something. You can just make your own path, make your own road. So it's authenticity.
Those were great 1 words, guys. I mean, passion and doing the best you can and being authentic, I think, are great words of advice to everyone that is thinking about doing advocacy, working on doing advocacy, and all of that. And I think it's very important that we share those words and get people inspired. And we hope, and I hope, that this advocacy Google Hangout does just that for everyone. And I know I would definitely like to add, as an advocate for GCE-US at times, like to add persistence, because it's definitely something that, as Senel said earlier, it may take a while and it may come slow, but advocacy definitely works. And I would definitely like to thank everyone who participated and who joined us, and definitely our panelists. They offer some great insight into this, and we're so excited that they were able to join us, and we were so excited that they were able to share some of their great wisdom. And we hope that you guys will continue and share this Google Hangout so that you can inspire others to advocate, whether it be for education or global health or anything that will help make this world a better place. So we thank you for your time, and we hope that you will continue to check out the great work that these advocates are doing and that we're doing at GCE-US with all of our coalition members. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your stories.